see. 1 second. Alright. Time. It is 3:54. p.m. Alright. Hang on. Wait, what? Before we get started, can I just say something? Okay, I'll let you say something. Thank you for actually setting the clock both times you've booted up the game. Thank you for thanking me. A lot of people don't take that step seriously. They just leave the clock set at 12 and call it a day. Rest assured, I'm not one of those people. But you're actually taking the time to set the clock, and I appreciate that. Warms my heart that you do. That's how I know you care about this experience. You're paying attention. I always pay attention. I don't even have a way of knowing if the times you're setting are correct. Rest assured, they are. Alright, you'll make me a deal? What is it? Since you've been so cooperative, next time you boot up the game and save this screen, just set the clock to your favorite time. Now that sounds like a fucking plan. Go ahead, pick whichever time you want, even if it's not the correct time. You've earned it. Alright, thank you. I'll get back to the video game. Alright, let's see what we want to do.
This is the story of a man named Stannlay.
Quit the game, then start it again. Wow, I have a trophy for that.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Should I get the bucket? Okay, I'll get the bucket.
Stannlay lifted the bucket into his arms, and a wave of comfort rushed over him.
Yeah!
Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be.
So, indeed it was.
And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stannlay thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
Look at the cold drinks. Look at the painting. Look at the paintings.
Truly, being here with the bucket was a grand adventure. Stannlay reflected on all they'd been through together. First, walking through the door on the right. Then walking to the lounge. Then arriving at the lounge. What a thrilling journey the bucket had inspired.
Woo!
Perhaps this was where the bucket felt most truly at home. Here in the employee lounge. Perhaps it's the only place a bucket can even feel at home.
Woo! I feel so at home with my bucket.
Stannlay decided to just give the bucket absolutely as much time as it needed to be in the lounge. Clearly, the bucket and the employee lounge shared a special connection.
Yes, we do. I am the employee lounge, and this is my bucket.
But finally, the bucket was done being in the lounge, and they took the first open door on their left to get back to business. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good Stannlay, I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stannlay. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stannlay Perable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stannlay. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
I've never even seen the Adventure Line. What new adventure? Hold on. This doesn't feel right.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
So if I skip the bucket, right?
When Stannlay came to a set of two open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stannlay knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow. Yes, this room. What a beautiful room. What a gorgeous, gorgeous room. Thank goodness Stannlay had taken this detour on his way to the meeting room. Life without having experienced this room was now too horrible even to consider. But eager to get back to business, Stannlay took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. But Stannlay didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here it's, left.
Okay, we'll go left.
Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake.
Oh, okay.
No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly... Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Okay.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way. No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stannlay, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning. And this
Okay.
time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, hmm? Okay, from the top.
Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ah. Wait, it's the normal office. It's not even... Yeah, we did it.
When Stannlay... Wait, what? No, I restarted. I swear I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change? Stannlay, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere or...
No.
Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story. It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere. Okay, then. It's an adventure. Come, Stannlay. Let's find the story.
Okay, we're gonna go through here.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not?
Okay.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed
Alright,
the
off
memo.
to the meeting room.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything?
What the fuck?
Aha! I knew we'd miss something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait. Never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps.
Okay, let's go.
Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all.
Yeah, me
Is this
either.
the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stannlay? Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win! Congratulations!
Yeah!
I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
I did it!
Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations. Okay, I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart. All right, I've got a solution. This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stannlay Perable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
Okay, let's do it. Yeah! Through this door! Alright, we're following the line. Where does this line
the
take
line
me?
knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stannlay, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what?
What the fuck?
I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Okay. Da 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 da.
Wait, cut the music. Go back and look at that fern. Stannlay, this fern will be very important later in the story. Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Alright, I'm studying it. Okay. It's studied.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stannlay Perable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again. Line, how could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Well, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart. You know what, Stannlay? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right? Why can't we make up our own story? Something exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Okay.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stannlay forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be? Go wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stannlay, I'm ready for it.
We're just going in circles. Wait, what? This place is weird.
Oh, no, not you again. Stannlay, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Okay.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere, which means that somewhere, the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin. So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one. Another victory for logic. Come, Stannlay, our destiny awaits. Oh, hold up, what's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is? It's all one giant ending? And we're supposed to restart the game, what, eight times? That's really how all this goes? It's all determined? So now, according to the schedule, I restart again. Then what? Am I just supposed to forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I won't do it. And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen? So, okay. I guess now we just wait, you know. I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story, wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey, though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So I hope that's where we are right now. We'll find out, won't we? Eventually. Well, in the meantime, if you...
So...
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay.
The confusion and the chaos all seemed to melt away as Stannlay embraced the bucket.
Now let's go do this.
Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this better than the meeting room? Yes, Stannlay thought to himself. Yes, perhaps it truly was. How insightful the bucket turned out to be.
I love you, Bucket. Mwah.
No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stannlay took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room. And so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good, Stannlay. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stannlay. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stannlay Perable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stannlay. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line? We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes, yes, that's what the fans want. Let's do it.
Okay. Off we go.
Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Yeah!
Now this is what the Stannlay Perable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up.
Whee! Let's keep going down.
Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stannlay Perable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree? Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does?
Oh.
Surely you don't need me to spell it out for you.
I
Go
love the
ahead now,
bucket.
Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready.
No. No, no, no.
Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait.
I don't
Sure,
care.
can
I
hear
love
you
my
saying,
bucket.
how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stannlay Perable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so
No.
densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What
No.
other object in this game can you even say that about? The broom closet? Certainly not. I
The
wonder what sort
bucket!
of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stannlay Perable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket.
I don't
Quickly
want
now.
to.
The fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what
No.
they want. Hurry and... The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such marvelous things with you, tell such spellbinding stories about you. All of it squandered now. Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
Are you okay, Bucket?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Thank God you're okay, Bucket.
Warmth spread through Stanley's arms. With the bucket in his arms again, he was home. Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Hmm? There will be a reward for finding them all. I know where one of those are.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Give me my figure!
Another
Yeah!
miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands? Stanley figs? Or what about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that. Another Stanlerine under your belt.
Oh. Because the boss knows that what the boss says goes. If the bosses suffered losses, then that's what the boss chose. Ah!
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by 1? Let me sit on it. I'm sure it will come to me. The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stannlay. Everything will be fine. Wait, Stannlay said to the bucket. Can we go back up? When I was pressing those keypad buttons, there was something very intriguing about the number 3. I want to go back so I can try pressing the number 3 again. The bucket said nothing.
Okay. We're pressing the number 3.
Here we are, said Stannlay. Now I'm going to try out that number 3 button. He took the bucket over to the keypad and began absolutely slamming on the number 3 over and over and over. Wow, he said. The number 3 is such a special button. I'm having the time of my life. Stannlay looked expectantly at the bucket, but the bucket remained silent. This was a shock to Stannlay, who had always felt such a connection with the bucket. How was this not as exciting to the bucket as it was to him? Once Stannlay had had enough of the number 3, he got back in the elevator.
Eight.
Perhaps the bucket had missed something. Perhaps it had not seen how much joy Stannlay got from slamming the number 3 repeatedly. A hint of regret nagged in the back of Stannlay's mind. Should he demonstrate the number 3 for the bucket again?
Okay, I love you, Bucket. We'll do it.
No, said Stannlay to the bucket. You can't go on yet. Not till you understand how much the number 3 means to me. You and I have been through so much together, and I just want you to see what I see. Feel the happiness I feel. He smiled at the bucket, and the bucket said nothing. Here we go, said Stannlay. This time I'll really show you. He ran to the number 3 and began to wail on it like a musician on a beloved instrument, weaving a concerto of truth and passion. He wielded the number 3 like a fine artist would wield a paintbrush. He told stories through the number 3, stories of his dreams and hopes and fears, and the whole time he looked to his bucket for a reaction of some kind. Anything to let him know that the bucket appreciated what he was doing. The bucket conveyed absolutely nothing at all, only silence. Crushed by a wave of dejection, Stannlay returned to the elevator.
I feel so rejected right now.
Stannlay and the bucket were so close. They'd always been there for one another. Why suddenly could the bucket not connect with this passion of Stannlay's? The question caused Stannlay to ruminate the whole way down the elevator. He knew that there must be a way to get through to the bucket, to communicate fully with his dear friend. Surely there was a solution, mustn't there be? Said Stannlay. I know what to do. I know how to fully express this feeling in my heart. He decided right then and there that he would hold a press conference where he would speak to the public on all matters relating to pressing the number 3 over and over.
Yes!
He would elaborate fully on what the number 3 meant to him and why he felt so alive when pressing it. Then the bucket would be able to see his joy through the eyes of others. It would get to see the world react to this discovery of Stannlay's. And it would be through the public eye that the bucket would finally understand Stannlay's work. For months, he advertised and marketed his press conference, building excitement around it, developing and rehearsing it, until it couldn't be refined a single measure further. When the big day arrived, Stannlay was as prepared as he'd ever been for anything in his life. This was it. One last chance to win the bucket over. One opportunity to share a true connection with a loved one. There was no one here. Nobody had come to the press conference to hear Stannlay speak, to listen to him talk about what it really means to press the number 3 on a keypad over and over. He was unloved, uninteresting, he was a failure, and in that moment Stannlay knew that the bucket would never again take him seriously. There would be no connection, no deeper understanding. The bucket merely sat there in his arms, indifferent. And so it began that slowly, over many years, the two of them grew more and more distant. They spoke less and less, neither wishing to state the obvious, that any sense of real respect between them had eroded since that day at the press conference. There would be no more games, no more long conversations about passion and pursuit, only a silence that consumed the space between friends. And Stannlay, having for once in his life discovered the warmth and comfort of true companionship, was cast back into the unremarkable normalcy of loneliness. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I need to see what that ending looks like without a bucket now.
When Stannlay came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Stannlay stepped into the broom closet, but there was nothing here, so he turned around and got back on track. Coming to a staircase, Stannlay walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stannlay was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stannlay was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music. Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stannlay calmly walked forward into the opened passageway. Whoops, nope, never mind. Stannlay actually got back into the elevator and went back up. Silly me. Why did Stannlay do that when he knew that it would just lead back to his boss's office? Well, that's a great question. I just can't wait to find out. Here we are, Stannlay. It's your boss's office. Exactly the way it was before you got onto the elevator. It's still just exactly what it is. What a decision you've made to come up here and look at the office again. This has fleshed out the plot of the story in new and fascinating ways I could have never anticipated. It's that keen eye for storytelling that you have, an incisive rapid fire of critical plot points, one after the other, weaving a rich tapestry of uncompromising narrative. Wow! I'm bolted to the edge of my seat. Incredible. Now he's getting back into the elevator and going down again. Ladies and gentlemen, how does he keep coming up with all of this?
I love this activity.
Did you think we were going to go forward down the spooky corridor? No. It's time once again to go back up in the elevator. I can't even begin to grapple with what might be up there. Is it the boss's office again? Or what if it's the boss's office this time? The suspense is killing me. Oh my God, it's the boss's office. This absolutely changes everything for me. Give me a time out here for a minute while I process this. Okay, I'm ready. I'm prepared to embrace this stunning revelation and to move forward with... No, wait. No, I need more time to process.
Woo!
All right, I have fully come to terms with it. I have made space in my worldview for this astonishing new reality. As before, I turn to your expert eye for gripping narrative, Master Stannlay.
Yeah!
Of course. Going back down in the elevator. How did I not anticipate it? I mean, sure, now it's obvious, but you have to understand that 30 seconds ago, this kind of thing had never been attempted before. I had no frame of reference to even anticipate it. That's just how revelatory Stannlay's decision-making is. A breath of fresh air in a landscape of storytelling that
Yes.
is both stale and repetitive.
Woo! Woo! Let's do it!
You know what? I've just thought of something. Hold on, let's stop for a moment. Don't you realize? It's the anticipation, Stannlay. You and I, we have no way of knowing what will be at the top of this elevator. But the suspense, The agony of waiting and anticipating and having to guess, that's the real thrill. Oh, I simply don't want to let that feeling go. It's so precious, so fleeting. Why don't we take this elevator ride nice and slow?
I agree.
There we go. Isn't this so much more exciting? You know, Stannlay, it seems like nowadays the only thing that audiences want is to be shocked as loudly and frequently as possible. They want big, explosive moments flung right in their faces from the very moment that things get started. But where's the tension? Where's the trust in the audience to build a slow and nuanced appreciation for the story, the characters? Why aren't we given time to imagine the surprises, to have to think and to anticipate and then to marvel at the eventual reveal? This is storytelling, Stannlay. What you and I are doing right now. This is the most exciting narrative to be developed in years, and it's really all because of you. You're the one who took this bold step of revisiting the exact same locations over and over. Truly, I mean it. This is unique and different. It's not like anything else out there. You see, I want stories that surprise me, Stannlay. I want to have to think. I want to be engaged and not pandered to. We're being fed such unimaginative drivel all the time, and we all know it, which is why we're so starved for content that makes us feel sharp and vital and alive. That's why people like you so much, Stannlay, because you're not afraid to spit in the face of tradition. You're a role model, you know? People look up to you. Which is why, though I didn't know when to spring this on you, but, well, I've gathered a little press conference for you, so that you can talk about your work and your storytelling and your life. Yes, I know you're not much for the public eye, but I thought it would especially mean a lot to the people who have been following you from the beginning. They really look up to you, Stannlay. I don't know if you realize the impact you have on them. This is the kind of gesture that might leave a tremendous impact on them for the better. Oh, good, we're here.
Woo!
Okay, the room where we're holding the press conference should be just around the corner here somewhere. Ah, yes, here it is, just through this door. All right, are you ready? I've told them you're going to speak a little bit about the nature of surprise in storytelling and what it means to craft a truly unpredictable narrative. Oh, don't worry, you'll do great. Just be yourself and speak from the heart. I'm really proud of you, Stannlay. Okay, it looks like they're ready for you. Go get 'em.
Okay, tension's high. Let's go. Oh, is there a place I can go to look at all the endings I got?
The meeting room. Yes, that's where everyone would be. Stannlay just needed to get to the meeting room, and from then on, he would never be alone ever again. Stannlay picked up the bucket and smiled. He'd never be alone again, not truly alone, not with the bucket around. Yes, whispered the bucket into Stannlay's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stannlay of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and regret, and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger. of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stannlay.
What are you talking about?
He screamed.
You're a bucket!
To this, the bucket furrowed its brow.
No,
Said the bucket.
not since the evil wizard Gambhorata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of... No!
Stannlay screamed even louder this time.
This is stupid! You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this?
As Stannlay screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like... My God, Stannlay, you did it. You saved us from the bucket. Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, we would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless. You've demonstrated such bravery here today. Come, let's restart the game, and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stannlay looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
I'm turning all these computers off.
The good old bucket. Just Stannlay and the bucket. Off on another thrilling adventure together.
Let's go on a new divergent path.
Oh, please. Are you really just doing this for the trophy? Click a door 5 times? Is that all you think a trophy is worth? No. I can't just give these merits away for such little effort. A measly
Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was it? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stannlay took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go there. Go to the cargo lift. Good,
Said the bucket.
now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked. No, stop. Look there on the wall. You see, there's a sign right there. It says, "No buckets past this point." Stanley, how could you think it was okay to bring the bucket here? Unless, what if the problem is that you actually don't know what is a bucket and what isn't a bucket? I suppose that would explain a lot about your behavior up to this point. Which, if that's true, well, my goodness, I think we have to do something about it. This misunderstanding could have dire consequences on the entire rest of the game if not addressed quickly and properly. So much of the impact of the story is dependent on your understanding of what is and isn't a bucket. Please, step in here for a moment.
Okay, I'm in.
Now then, I'm going to run you through some test scenarios, and you'll tell me whether or not the thing I'm showing you is a bucket. Simple enough, right? This should tell us everything we'll ever need to know about what is or is not a bucket. Okay, let's begin. Item 1. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a hologram of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 2. Is this a bucket? Correct. It is a 3D printed recreation of a bucket, not an actual bucket. Item 3. Is this a bucket? Incorrect. This is a bucket. Item 4. Is this a bucket? What? Are you hallucinating? This is a tractor. It's an enormous machine that tills the earth. I thought this was a gimmick. How on earth did you manage to screw it up? Absolutely incredible. Let's just move on to the next one. Is this a bucket? Correct. This is a bucket.
Okay, everything's a bucket, alright? Except for buckets. Buckets are not buckets.
Item 6. Is this a bucket? Trick question. Both. Gotcha. Item... Wait, hold on. I can't find the next one. Let me see. It should be around here somewhere. Okay, you and I both know there isn't anything here. And I don't appreciate the implication that nothing is a bucket when we both clearly know that a bucket is something, and therefore nothing could possibly be something. Unless, in your twisted mind, have you somehow convinced yourself that a bucket is nothing? Answer me straight, Stanley. Do you believe that nothing is a bucket? You know what? I'm too confused to even sort it out. I've lost all sense of perspective. What is a bucket? What isn't a bucket? Mere moments ago I could answer these questions with confidence. And yet now I'm somewhat adrift. Do any of us know what a bucket is? Am I a bucket? Stanley, I can't keep doing this. I'm losing myself, and myself was all I ever had to begin with. I'm afraid the bucket is threatening to tear our relationship apart. I can't have that. I'm sorry. But I'm going to erase all buckets from the game entirely. Okay, here we go. What happened? Is everything gone? Why did everything disappear? Wait, was everything a bucket? Every single thing in the game was a bucket. My God, I had no idea. How could... Except me. I'm not a bucket after all. And you, Stannlay, you're still here. You're not a bucket either. Oh, this is wonderful news. We're not buckets. Yes, I actually feel much more at ease right now. It's delightful to get some clarity on that issue, but it doesn't change the fact that we haven't got a game. So, tell you what, I'll reset everything and we'll put back all of the buckets, okay? And we'll know that it's all a bucket. But if you run into anyone else, maybe don't mention that. Who knows what that information might do to a person? All right, here we go.
Okay. Let's fucking go!
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
It said somewhere red and blue. So...
When Stannlay came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stannlay knew it perfectly well.
Okay.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Stannlay felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, giddy in a way he had never known before. But eager to get back to business, Stannlay took the first open door on his left. Stannlay was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
It said somewhere red and blue.
Look,
I'm trying to
Stannlay,
find the
I
figurine.
think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stannlay. Someone you've forgotten about. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stannlay You're getting close now, Stannlay. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler and Marines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then. Different in the sense that we used to have none of them. And now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler and Marines. None of us can. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stannlay? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
Okay.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stannlay, I think... No, wait. Where are you going? Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stannlay, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stannlay, think about what you're doing. No! Oh, thank God. No, what are you doing, Stannlay? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this? Stannlay, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me? Yes, perhaps you can. Perhaps you finally see what I'm talking about. I know you'll see that we can't be happy if we leave this place. You can see that, can't you? No, perhaps not.
All right.
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Okay. I just want to tease him a little, you know? A little tickle in the balls, that's it. Let's go.
Do you actually want to stay alive? Or are you just teasing me? I wanted us to be happy here, Stannlay. I really did. I still thought that was possible.
Yeah, we are happy to die. Yes, you're right. I was just teasing you. Mwahahaha. Ha ha ha. Ha ha ha.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stannlay just smiled. Anywhere they went together would be perfectly fine with him.
Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
A large room, lots of boxes. Hold up.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stannlay came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stannlay knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was grand. Majestic, perhaps too, but eager to get back to business, Stannlay took the first open door on his left. Stannlay was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Oh my god, I found it.
And there it is, the last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stannlay. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward. I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stannlay leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stannlay. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Stannlay, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life? Didn't it fill you to the brim with inner richness? Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stannlay.
Seven out of 6.
And here was a second Stannlarine. I'll be honest, back then I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here in the boss's bathroom. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything. Let's see, what came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room.
Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
No, I don't think that's right, but okay. We'll go with it.
This was the 5th mini-Stan, and this one was really something special. It was by the red and blue doors. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Okay. I found it! Thank you so much for that video.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else. And then, Stannlay, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here in the warehouse. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like. And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment. Nothing left to do but move onward into the future. Goodbye, memory zone. No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines? Let's just go backwards. We'll do the memory zone again from the opposite direction. See how that feels.
Okay.
Okay, yes. This spot in the warehouse. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going. I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
Yeah, I remember.
Yes, I love that video.
Ah, such a good video. I love the. I love reminiscing on those times. Hold on, I'm getting a phone call. All right, we're back.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stannlay. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room.
Yeah, no, wasn't this supposed to be a... Let's see, we did the stairs. That was a fun one. Yeah, my memory sucks.
These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have neutered the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one. This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figlarines. Oh, I want more memories, Stannlay. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this? Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then. But time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More memories. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember. Yes, I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stannlay to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stannlay? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship. And Stannlay really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how it used to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it. I'll be stronger this time. I'll take care of myself. I don't need Stannlay anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what? Since we're in the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stannlay one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stannlay.
Oh god, is this it? Did I beat the game? Okay.
All of his co-workers were... Wait, no. This isn't the right office, is it? Is this Stanley's office? A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket, a committed bucket, a bucket of culture and distinction. Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left.
Okay.
Still no one was here. Stannlay needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Stannlay, we must move on from this broom closet, simply because I have no remaining stickers. If I did, you can guarantee we'd be in here for hours. But alas, no stick. Coming to a staircase, Stannlay and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Okay.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stannlay was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. But Stannlay guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation. Stannlay and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stannlay and the bucket both wondered to themselves. The monitors jumped to life, and Stannlay nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stannlay cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine. Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stannlay's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket.
Understandable.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stannlay decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stannlay and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system. But at the last second, the bucket jumped in and pressed the button to turn on the controls. Stannlay gasped in horror. Had this been the bucket's plan all along? To take over the machine and claim the power for itself? How could the bucket have betrayed him like this? Stannlay was prepared to throw the bucket away in disgust when suddenly an image appeared upon the enormous screen. Birds. Silly, silly birds. The control buttons became active again. Stannlay flipped through one video of silly birds after another, and then it dawned on him. This wasn't a mind control facility at all. It was a facility for monitoring and surveilling silly birds all over the world. The mind controls were only a facade to disguise its true intentions. Had the bucket known this all along? Stannlay marveled at the metal genius in his hands, the one who had pointed him towards this incredible discovery. Stannlay and the bucket never found freedom because they spent the rest of their lives here in this place.
I'm just sitting here at
living
game.
through live streams of the silliest birds imaginable. Of all the possible paths his life could have taken, this one was surely the best. And Stannlay was happy. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stannlay decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Ah, the embrace of an old friend. A weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stannlay clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stannlay had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stannlay took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stannlay did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stannlay chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stannlay once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it will take us back home, where we can go about life together.
This is the sad story of a man named Stannlay and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stannlay a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him. The Stannlay Perable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stannlay is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway. Stannlay, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think, it can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively transfer a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it.
I
It
love the
doesn't
bucket.
do anything else. You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is his awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal. It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket.
I
I'll
love
give it
you,
this.
bucket.
The bucket does have
Mwah.
a nice shine to it. Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little more, what am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket.
I love
Why
you,
do I
bucket.
feel so need to point out
Mwah.
the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket? Oh no. I'm having feelings for the bucket. No. What's going on? Why do I want to be with the bucket? Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks.
I
What's
love
wrong
you,
with me?
bucket.
I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes. The bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket. Give it to me. Give me the bucket, Stanley. I need it.
No.
Give it to me now. Give it or I'll...
Okay.
The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
I miss you, Stannlay.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always.
I love you,
The
bucket.
would,
Mwah.
and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845.
I love you, bucket. You're my bucket baby.
Stanley just
I
sat around
love
twiddling
you,
his
my
thumbs.
bucket.
Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
I love you, my bucket. Mwah! I love my bucket.
2845.
I love you, my bucket. Ooh, my lovely bucket. I love my bucket.
Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself, and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stannlay and the bucket would both meet a violent death. The door behind them was not shut. Stannlay and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stannlay and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them. As the machine whirred into motion and Stannlay and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stannlay reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be.
Shut up!
It puts the mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stannlay thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stannlay.
"Farewell, Stannlay," cried the narrator, as Stannlay and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death. It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
The bucket, it's gone! Where'd my bucket go? Bucket?
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stannlay to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stannlay will ever be in his short life?
That is a lot more than 25 buckets. Whoa. Interesting. Well, we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind. We do not know by how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which the time the bucket had already been around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity worthy of its treasures.
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
Yes. The hanging bucket.
There is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong. Let Stannlay die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only
You're
we
right!
let Stannlay die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new
Die,
world,
Stannlay!
a new vision.
Even now, Stanley's office was a distant memory. What did it look like? There was a computer, perhaps, and a painting. Was it a painting or a photo? He could no longer recall.
Alright, I'm gonna end this one here. See you next time.